I think the critics are correct, and I think the fans are correct.
Oh boy. Toy Story 5. They've made 5 Toy Story movies that we will get to watch and endure. What the hell, Disney? Why? Why can't we just let it end with 3? Here's the thing, I'm not a hater of 4. I know there are people who out there who actually hate 4. I like a lot of 4. I think it's still fun. It's just so unnecessary. It doesn't need to exist. And this 5th one also doesn't need to exist. What's also funny is that they have a great concept for it too. I actually like the idea of toys being outshined by tablet. Like that's actually a really fun modern day twist on it. But what the frick, Disney? What are we doing here?
No, I totally agree with you on that. I think it is Toy Story as a franchise, if they would have stopped at 3, I think easily could have been in contest up there with Lord of the Rings for best movie trilogy of all time. I
No,
easily think that would
I'd
be
give you that. I
a
think that's close.
valid conversation.
It's a
I
valid
think
conversation.
the biggest problem is 4 is good. It's not bad. Anyone who says Toy Story 4 is bad, I think is wrong. Was it necessary? No. And I had a conversation with a friend about Toy Story 5 because my opinions on Toy Story 5 are very similar, even though we've only seen the trailer, obviously, is very similar to my opinions on Toy Story 4. I think that Toy Story 5 is going to be a good movie. I do. I genuinely think it is going to be a good movie.
Sure.
I don't think it's going to be as good as the trilogy. I'm assuming it'll probably be the quality of 4.
Yeah.
And was it necessary? Absolutely not. Did I want it? No, not really. Did I also want them to make a spin-off TV show about a spoon that appeared for 5 seconds in the 4th movie? No. Like,
Well,
I don't
yeah.
want any of this.
Well, it's also like the new. This is a sidetracking bit from the trailer. We're talking about trailers in our cold open, so we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff that got dropped over the past week. But the one I'm specifically thinking of here is: did you ever watch Monsters at Work? Did you ever watch that? It dropped
The
on
TV
Disney
show?
Plus.
No, I never saw the TV show.
So,
I love Monsters Inc. and Monsters University, but I had no interest in the
so
show.
this is I don't consider it a hot take. I think it's a genuinely good pick. I think people are. You could have your opinion for Pixar movies. Monsters Inc. is personally my favorite Pixar movie. I love that film. I think it's the best. I think it's supreme.
My older
Um,
sister would agree with you.
I love Monsters Inc. That being said, Monsters at Work, whereas it's not bad, it's just not necessary. It doesn't need to happen. It doesn't need to be there. Granted, you could honestly say the same thing about Monsters University, but Monsters University is so dang good that you sit there and go, I like this. Like I will say that is the difference between Monsters University and Toy Story 4. Both are unnecessary. You could both make that case that they're both unnecessary. Monsters University is done so well, and it doesn't hurt or fracture any of what thing that happens in Monsters Inc. It only really enhances it. Like that's the thing you got to look at it. And so it's just like Toy Story 5. I watched this trailer and went, I like the concept. Like genuinely, I said that I love that concept. I think that's a genius concept and a logical step in a Toy Story continuation.
Yeah.
But I don't want it. I didn't
No,
ask for it. I don't want it.
I agree with you. I think it is interesting concept, really good animation as always, coming from the studio that brought you the other good Toy Story movies.
Yeah.
But they're just I think the problem that 5 is more of what it represents, and that's the fact that clearly they're never going to let Toy Story die, and that
Yeah.
eventually we will get a genuinely bad Toy Story movie, and that's what scares me more. It's not that
Yeah.
this movie is going to be bad, because I think the concept is interesting enough. I think that the success of 4, I don't have any fears for this movie. But if they continue to drag this on for as long as it seems like they are wanting to drag it on for, we are, by the rule of numbers, eventually going to get a bad Toy Story movie. It is just going to happen. And
Yeah.
I never want to see that, because Toy Story is such a genuinely, again, the trilogy could be considered one of the best trilogies of all time, but you can no longer consider it a trilogy. Like, it's.
The thing is, like, if you're gonna end it, like 3 was clearly the logical conclusion, the logical ending for the franchise. They never should have made another one. If you're gonna continue it and you end it the way you did in 4, and that's how you end it, that's how you should end it. Woody goes off with Bo Peep. has purpose again, finds homes for lost toys. That's a great idea. That's where the ends, and then Jesse becomes the sheriff or the leader of the gang or whatever, and stays with Bonnie. Whatever, that fine, but that's where you got to end it. Somehow they are telling us that Woody is back with the gang, which I'm not saying it's far fetched. I'm sure they could easily find a way. I'm sure it's not that difficult. That being said, how are you going to justify Woody getting back to the gang? Them needing Woody at all, considering at the end of the movie they're literally saying like, "Hey, you don't need me. You have Jesse, who can be a perfectly fine leader." What's the purpose of him needing to be back here? This trailer didn't make me angry, but it's also just like, I don't need this. I know I keep saying that, but that's
Yeah.
genuinely how I feel. And again, it goes with most Pixar movies nowadays. I didn't need an Incredibles 2. And certainly after watching that movie, Incredibles 2 isn't bad, but it's certainly not as good as that first movie. That first movie is very close to perfect. Maybe the best Pixar movie of all time, objectively. And I love Monsters Inc. more than all of them. Like, I don't need an Incredibles 2. Furthermore, I don't need an Incredibles 3 coming out next year either. I don't need that. Or is it 2027? It might be 2027. I don't need Incredibles 3 either. So it's just all of these things that Pixar continues to do, and they keep going down the line of like, all right, what franchise can we do this time? What franchise can we do this time? I'm actively waiting for another Monsters Inc. sequel because I know it's going to happen. A Cars sequel. And I don't even like the Cars franchise all that much. I think all three of them are just okay. Like, actually, of all the original classic Pixar movies, Cars is my least favorite on the totem pole for like Pixar franchises that have come out. It's
You
not
know,
bad.
I think that's a actually very fair assessment as someone who has actually rewatched, especially Cars 1 more recently than some of the others and even some of the other Pixar movies.
Yeah.
It is an okay movie. I would go as far to say it is a good movie, at least the first one is.
The
I
first
think
one's good.
the others, it gets a lot more difficult, and then you're right. Knowing what they're doing with the Toy Story franchise and other franchises, there is a very high likelihood that a Cars, whatever. I mean, they did a spin-off of Planes, and like 2 people
Yeah.
watched that movie. Like,
To the
they're
fan
gonna
who
milk
liked planes, this is your fault.
to the fan who liked planes, next up, helicopters. We're
Oh
skipping
no.
boats. We're just doing
We're just doing
helicopters.
helicopters. Yeah, I can't wait for next year Disney to announce Cars 4: The Last Ka-Chow in theaters 2028. It's gonna be great.
Would not be surprised.
There was a trailer that came out that kind of surprised me a little bit though, and it's honestly not one that I'm still not like overly excited for the movie. And this trailer didn't give me like hope for anything new, but it did reassure in the fact that it can be a lot of fun, and that's the new Mario Galaxy trailer. First off, I look, I know what I said a few months ago, and I stand by what I said a few months ago. I don't disagree. I'm not taking away from any of my thoughts. However, that being said, watching this trailer, you can clearly tell the love and care that is being put into this universe. Even if the movie isn't like the most 10 out of 10 plot, they have so much care for these characters and this world and this, I'm just going to say it this way because I can't think of a better word, franchise that has been built for years now. You can tell that they're putting so much care into it. And then on top of that, all the voice actors just sound like they're having a lot of fun bringing these characters to life. I mean, Jack Black always does, but like,
I mean, it's Jack Black.
I can just tell that the end there is an energy with this film that I'm like, you're gonna have a fun time. Again, I don't think that this movie is gonna be a slam dunk. If it is, I will pay you $20. You can bookmark this clip right here. I will give
What
you
constitutes a
$20.
slam dunk?
90% and up.
Oh, yeah, I'm not taking that bet. That's not happening. I'm not.
That's
I love the Mario movie. It's not at 90%.
that's a slam dunk in my book. And look, you never know. Sequels can sometimes be absolutely outstanding. That being said, this movie isn't going to be a home run, but the trailer did do enough to where I'm like, okay, that's fun. They're having a fun time. They're giving you just enough to where it's like, oh, that's a fun addition from the games. Bowser Jr. being a big example of that. I know people have said for years. I have a friend who's a big fan of Mario and a big fan of the movie, and he's like, I just want Bowser Jr. That's all I want. I go, you might get him. There's a chance you could get him. I don't know who the Rosalind character is.
Rosalina.
Oh, sorry, Rosalina. I'm sorry. I don't know who that character is at all. I don't know Mario all that much. nor have I ever really
She's a big
cared to look into the
character.
lore.
She is a very big fan favorite
I
character.
imagine that. Uh, but the animation with her character and the like little fight sequence at the end of the trailer was like, holy crap, that's great. Good job, Illumination. Well done. That just looked really good. I don't know. Do you have thoughts on the? I mean, we already talked about the
I
original
mean,
Mario movie. Do you have any thoughts about
yeah,
just
we've
Mario
already talked about
Galaxy?
how I love the Mario movie way more than you do. I genuinely think it is a great movie. I'm very excited for Mario Galaxy. I'm not gonna say it's in my top 3 most anticipated of next year just because, as we've discussed offline before, next year is an unbelievably stacked year for movies,
Oh, at least
but
blockbuster movies. At the very least
correct.
for that.
Correct. Like this year feels very filled with like good non-blockbustery style movies. You did have your Marvel movies and you had Tron and in those movies that are typically your bigger blockbusters, but
Sure.
the box office has been dominated by things like Demon Slayer and The Long Walk and movies that wouldn't be typically considered blockbusters. I
Yeah.
think next year with The Odyssey, with Doomsday, all of these movies that are just shoe-in blockbusters. Next year is the year of blockbusters. And
Well,
I think Mario Galaxy is going to be one of them. I mean, Mario, the first movie, was the highest grossing movie the year it came out. It grossed over $1 billion, if I remember correctly. And I think it's well deserved. I love that movie. I have never played the Mario Galaxy video games other than a few minutes, so I don't know the whole lore of them. And I do know that they're mixing in a lot of the Mario World lore in there as well. That's very prevalent because there are certain characters that don't really play in the Mario Galaxy world that are going to be appearing in this movie. But with what we've gotten, I'm very intrigued. I think lover or hater, I think Brie Larson sounds good as Rosalina. I have no
sure.
notes there. I think you might know off the top of your head, but the person who's voicing Bowser Jr.,
Benny
he
Sapphire.
yes,
Or it might not
Benny
be
Safdie.
Sapphire.
Ben Safdie.
Safdie?
Ben
Safdie.
Safdie. Interesting choice. I'm not going to disagree with it. He sounded really good, but out of everyone you could have picked, that was an interesting one to say the
Well,
least.
I'm honestly surprised you didn't just like put Jack Black in the role of Bowser Jr. and like pitch his
No,
voice up
no,
and like do
they're
something different.
distinct characters. They are distinct,
Okay.
separate characters. This
Okay.
isn't like a baby version of Bowser. This is Bowser's kid. So
Gotcha.
him to be voiced by his dad would make no sense, in my opinion.
I
So
will also say, I know it's a teaser. There were a few absent characters from this trailer that I'm kind of surprised they just didn't show at all. Like Toad. Toad not being in this kind of surprised me. I would have thought they would have shown something. Donkey Kong, which I would imagine he'll play a role in this. Just depends on how big he plays a role in it.
I think the issue you run into is now with introducing Bowser's going to play a role in this movie. Obviously, Mario and Luigi. Obviously, Princess Peach. Now you have Rosalina, Bowser Jr. Like, they're going to have a hard time balancing all of these characters. Some are just going to have to take cuts. And I don't think Donkey Kong plays any role in Mario Galaxy. So I
Sure.
wouldn't be surprised if he is just absent from 99% of this
Like
movie.
he'll be in it, but he's just not going to play a pivotal role. Um, didn't they have a post credit scene at the end of the first one for Yoshi? I'm not saying they would have revealed him
Yes.
in the trailer, but
And
I would
and Yoshi
imagine.
is going to play a big role in this movie. The current theory is that at the Game Awards, we're going to get another trailer of the Mario Galaxy movie, and that is going to give us the reveal of Yoshi.
I figured. I'm about to say because
Because I'm
I
pretty sure we got not the first, but a big trailer for the Mario movie, the first one at the Game Awards.
gotcha. Yeah, that would make sense then. Um, I don't know. It'll be interesting. Again, doesn't really build much hype for me. It just like reassures. It reassures me a bit more of like, okay, they're gonna have a fun time. They have a lot of care behind it. I'm at least not gonna be bored by the movie, which is enough.
Yeah.
Um, so that's all I needed from that. The last thing I want to talk about, it actually isn't a trailer. This actually just dropped today, as far as I know. Like just
Nope.
this morning. When did this
Nope.
drop? Yesterday?
No, this dropped earlier this week. This dropped on Wednesday.
Oh, then I'm just now seeing it. Like I opened my phone this morning and I saw all the stuff for it today. Like I haven't seen anything.
Nope. It
Uh,
dropped on a random Wednesday. Like sitting there, I was sitting at work, and this is the only one that I have a lot to say about. I mean, I had a lot to say about the others, but I was sitting at work, at home, and I got a ping from a friend that was the article of what we were about to talk about, and I was like, "It's a random Wednesday. What do you mean they dropped this?"
It's just a random it means nothing. Why is it just here? But I think it's fair to say, and I think we should all stand and applaud. Welcome back, the GameCube. Welcome back. I'm so happy they brought it back. No, it's not. I don't know actually what it's called. It's not the GameCube, but it's like it's another Steam console.
It's the Steam machine.
The
It's
Steam
what it
machine.
yeah.
It's going to rival Xbox and PlayStation. So here's my question, because I had made a comment to Brandon, and I want to get into this quickly because you're gonna know more about it than I do. It's really hard to say. Yes, it could probably run Xbox out of business first, but like I feel like PlayStation would run out first because they're
Nope.
on their own separate. Microsoft with their new console, if you don't know about I don't know what the next console is. It's the Series something. The new Xbox that comes out, Steam is going to be built into it. So unlike
That
this
hasn't been
console,
confirmed.
oh, that hasn't been confirmed.
No, all of that is rumors.
Oh, well, that's not happening anymore. Absolutely, that's not happening anymore. I'm willing
Well,
to
and
stake my life on it.
the rumor is not that it's going to have Steam built into it. The rumor, and this is soft confirmed, is that it's basically going to be an at-home PC style console. Basically, they're going to be trying to make a Steam machine, but it's going to be way more expensive, and it's going to be the Xbox software, which is locked down and specifically, it's going to be the new version of Windows that they made for the handheld device that they recently made on their next console, and it's going to be a significantly more locked down version of what Steam is doing, because the Steam machine, you can load in any software you want. You could technically scrap the Steam OS entirely and run Linux on it, or run Microsoft or Windows, or even Mac OS if you can figure that out,
Sure.
allegedly.
Sure. No, okay. Well, that makes more sense then. I mean, I didn't fully know what the extent of it was. I just read that, oh, Steam's going to be a part of this. And again, that's horrible for PlayStation. Like, PlayStation's done if that's the case. Then
Nope.
they dropped this, and I went,
PlayStation is the
what?
best selling PlayStation is the second best selling console of this generation. And if it wasn't for the Switch, which is now on track to be one of the best selling consoles of all time, the Switch 2 specifically, it is the biggest launch of a console of all time. The PlayStation is the best selling currently. So
Gotcha.
PlayStation has no issue. Like, PlayStation is locked in. Like, they know what they're doing. They make better consoles than Xbox. Like, everyone doesn't like Xbox. They've already admitted themselves. Like, the head of Xbox has come out and said, "Yeah, we fucked up. We lost the generation. We admit it." Like, I'm being totally serious. Xbox themselves, the head of Xbox came out and said, "We lost." And this was before the Steam machine even was announced.
So but here's like the thing, and I this is coming from somebody who has a PS5 and a Series X, and is primarily I am an Xbox player, so I might be biased when I say this. I like the Xbox more than PlayStation. That's only more so because of things like Game Pass. When you look at PlayStations, it's a lot more expensive, and you're not getting nearly as much as if you just buy a one. Like, so like PlayStation will have monthly payments that you can pay that's similar to like a Game Pass, except it's different games each month. So you're getting a variety, I guess, but it's not the same things. Secondly, you also have to pay there's tiers. So you can go for the highest tier, which is like, I don't know, 40 a month or something. I'm spitballing. That might not be accurate. And the lowest goes to like 25, but you get like very few things and you don't get cloud gaming. With Xbox, you pay for Game Pass and it's like a one-stop, one-all. It's like $26, but you get all these games. If you pay for that's the highest one for Xbox too. You get like EA Plus free, which meaning you get all like the Battlefronts, Battlefields. You get all access to like these things that you just don't get typically, and you get the deals for like games. So it just depends on what you like, what you want. Because I will also say, yes, they're different, and PlayStation probably does win. It's not like they're absurdly far off. Like, if you got an
So,
Xbox over a PlayStation, you don't lose there. Like, you're still getting something out of it.
here's the thing. This is the basically universally accepted fact across gamers. And again, I'm overly plugged into the gaming news space.
Sure.
the generally accepted rule is Xbox is the best publisher of this current generation. With Game
Sure.
Pass, with all they own Ubisoft, like they own all of the, or not, they don't own Ubisoft, but they own a lot of different game publishing companies. I mean, they own freaking Call of Duty now. Like they are
Yeah.
the best publisher on a software side. On a hardware side, it's PlayStation by a country mile.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
PlayStation has the
Absolutely.
significantly better hardware, and so when it comes to consoles themselves, like the physical console,
Yes.
PlayStation has Xbox beat by a long country mile.
Oh, no,
But when it
I
comes
agree
from
with
a
that.
software perspective, that's where it gets a little interesting. However, the reason why the Xbox, like the Steam machine, is going to run the X, like it's going to be another nail in the coffin for the Xbox hardware, is because Xbox themselves have been giving up on their hardware and just putting all their games on other platforms. You can play a lot of the modern Xbox games on um on a PlayStation or even on a Switch nowadays. The only thing is you can't get Game Pass on those, but you can on a PC. And a lot of people are
Sure.
moving over to PC gaming. So you don't need an Xbox anymore. Hell, I literally could buy Game Pass, and I have done this before. I did it for like 3 months. I bought Game Pass before they hiked the price and just played it natively on my TV, 4K 60 frames per second. I
Yeah.
was playing Clair Obscure Expedition 33 on my TV
Yeah.
natively through cloud streaming.
You can absolutely do that. And so I don't know. You're probably right. Xbox would go. Here's the thing. This also is like a conversation that's not going to happen for at least a long while. Like every gaming company is still in a comfortable spot right now, even with this dropping. Like this might be like the first nail in the coffin for them to like start losing stuff. It's still going to be years before you ever get to that point. Because one
It's
thing,
a lot sooner than you think. Based on
really,
Rumbling, oh yeah. Well, because the next console generation is only about 2 years away.
yeah,
From speculations, it's about 1.5 to 2 years away. Probably a year and a half till announcement, 2 years till release, at least on the Xbox side, based on how long ago the newest Xbox series came out. Because if you remember, like the PlayStation 5 dropped during the pandemic, and one of the reasons it didn't have a bigger launch than it did was the supply and demand of the
yeah,
pandemic. It was there's a
yeah,
very high demand because everyone's at home playing video games, but the supply sucked because supply chain was ruined by the pandemic. So that would have had an even bigger, but now that we're later on, the PlayStation has had a really good uptick in console sales.
yeah,
And the problem that you run into is the gap between generations is going to get harder and harder to close in
yeah,
terms of like the big differences, because one of the big differences between the PS5, like the base the base PS4, not the Pro, not the whatever, the base PS4 and the PS5 is 4K 60 frames per second.
yeah,
The PS4 was 1080, like 120 frames per second on some to most games.
yeah.
The Xbox or the PlayStation 5 is 4K without the Pro model, and now the Pro model looks like marginally better. But what are you going to do? 8K on the PS6? Like that's not the
Sure.
best you're gonna get is like every game's gonna run 120 frames per second in
Yeah.
4K, but like that's not a big enough jump. You already have zero load times for the majority of games, and the ones that have load times, that's not on the PlayStation, that's mainly on the developers. Like the gap between generations is getting smaller and smaller in terms of like generational jumps. It's gonna become like iPhones at this point. Like, granted, they're not gonna release every year, but like I have an iPhone 16 Pro Max. I had the 10. I waited 6.5 years until I upgraded to my 16. And did I feel a big jump? Kind of, but also like I'm a casual iPhone user. Like it's a phone. So
The thing that scares me, and this is the last I'll say about console wars and stuff. And again, I don't really keep up on it. I just like what I like, and I like the Xbox. Sue me. I also like the PlayStation. I just prefer Xbox because it's what I've played on for years. Who cares? Um, I think that honestly, you like what you like. That's great. Play on what you want to play on because at the end of the day, for me, I don't think it's going to matter anytime soon. I feel like people are just predicting too far in advance. I just feel like that's always the way that the world works. Is like people will predict things, but it's like wildly inaccurate. It's just because of how they see it in the heat of the moment and they just predict things. So I feel like this is going to last a while before anything major happens. But the thing that concerns me with the console wars right now, and I read this, I don't know if this is true, weren't Xbox and PlayStation trying to fast track their consoles to come out. It was like 2 years prior to what the actual deadline for like when they actually release a console every 10 years is. Didn't
Well, the console generations has never had like a you have to release it every 10 years. Xbox is in conversation, and that's why I said like a year and a half to 2 years, probably leaning on the year and a half side for the next Xbox console. I think PlayStation's probably 3 years out from their next
I about to say
console.
if Xbox rushes it, they're
So,
done. Xbox needs to take their time and they need to make sure they have everything they possibly need. Otherwise, they are done. There's just no, like you cannot rush it and expect to be better than the competitor. That's just how it is.
and I want to make something clear. I don't think Xbox is going away anytime soon. Again, their software
No, no,
development
no, 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 no,
business,
no, no.
their game publishing, their Xbox Game Pass, even though a lot of people dropped after they upped the price to $30 a month. I think that side still is the one of the best in the business. I do think that side of it, even though I personally prefer most PlayStation games over Xbox games, I do think that Xbox is a really strong publishing division. I don't think Xbox is going away. I think Xbox hardware, I
Yes.
think next generation, I'm not saying it is definitively going to be their last generation that they ever release any hardware, but they've already released a handheld. They've talked about releasing another handheld that is not partnered with anyone and it is their own handheld. I wouldn't be surprised if they move away from the standard Xbox and focus more on
Yeah.
PC, handheld, those types of hardware. So
Sure.
Xbox isn't going away, but their hardware division probably is going to see a pretty substantial change. And your main thing for consoles is going to be you're either a PC gamer or you're a PlayStation gamer, because that's how Xbox is already moving.
And
Again,
like
I can play Xbox on my TV.
and like it and like it's been for the past 10 years, the console wars don't end. They just get worse because now they have a new competitor. Thanks a lot, Steam. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, we didn't even
uh,
talk about the Steam machine, which, by the way, I'm gonna say, whole honesty, if this device is $500, I'm buying one. I really want a Steam machine. I really do. I am a big
honestly,
over PlayStation and Xbox and Switch, which I have a PS4 and I have a Nintendo Switch One. I am a PC gamer. I have a big Steam library, big Epic Game Store library, big like PC games library. If this thing is $500, I would buy a Steam machine over an Xbox or even a PS5
well,
for
and
free.
had I known that this was gonna be coming out, which I didn't, I would never have bought the PC that I did. I just would have waited, and I just would have
Well,
gotten that.
the thing is, this isn't a PC replacement. Like in the trailer, they did say you can use it like a PC, but the hardware is not
The same,
made to be
yeah,
like, I'm not going to be editing this podcast on my Steam machine. Like that's not what it's made for. It's if you use Steam OS and the way the hardware is built and the way the form factor is made, it's very specifically made to run your games really, really well on the lowest hardware they could fit into the small box. But if you're wanting to use it like a very standard PC, I think it's probably going to perform about as well on normal PC as a mid to high range laptop.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. We'll see about it. I'm gonna start the show now because it's been 40 minutes, and this really should have only taken us like 20.
I don't know if you know how to count, but it's been 28 minutes.
28 minutes. It says 34 in the left corner.
You're looking at the wrong thing. I have the real counter down here.
Oh, that's epic. I'm glad you have a real one. I don't know why it says 30, 35 in my bottom corner. Maybe that's from when I joined the call. Maybe
It's when
that's what
you
it is.
joined.
Ah, love that. Thank God. I was about to say, did we talk about this for 40 minutes? Did we really just
Well, we're
ramble
about to
on?
if you don't get the podcast started.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Nerdy Nimrods podcast, the only podcast in the world where your two favorite Nimrods talk all things nerdy, and usually for like 40 minutes long about a game console. I am your host this evening, Carson, aka Juggernaut, here with my forever co-host.
Brandon, aka Parrotfish.
And today we are talking about two movies that honestly pretty happy to talk about. The Running Man and Now You See Me, Now You Don't. Spoilers for everything that we talk about today for Running Man and Now You See Me, both with a lot of twists and turns and a lot of big plot reveals. So just be forewarned that you will be spoiled when we talk about this stuff. Before we get into it, Brandon, How we doing, buddy?
I'm good. Can't complain. I am not looking forward to next week, admittedly, but there's also a lot to look forward to. Next week's podcast, it's going to be a mess. We've already talked about a lot offline. But I am going to be in Philadelphia for PAX East next this upcoming weekend, and so I am extremely excited about that. I love board games. I'm a huge board game person. I'm a huge card game person. I used to do a lot of Pokemon TCG, getting into Magic. I'm really excited to check out like Riftbound. That's what I'm really excited for. So that's all excited. I'll probably talk about it again because we'll record the next podcast before I leave.
Sure,
But in terms of
sure.
this past week, it was whatever. It was a week. I'm alive. That's all I could be grateful for.
Exactly. I'm in the process of packing up my room because we are going to put new floors in my room, which is great. Remodeling. The unfortunate thing is now I have to pack up my room, and now I'm gonna have to live in a room that has no nerd memorabilia. Actually, pretty soon here, you're just gonna see the TV in the background. This whole unit's gonna be gone. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. Speaking of fun, let's talk about The Running Man. We've had 2 Stephen King movies this year that have come out. Well, technically 3 if you include It Welcome to Derry, but that's not a movie, that's a
I mean, that's
television
not a
show.
movie, but this is the third notable Stephen King adaptation of the year. You have
Well,
The
and
Long Walk, you have The Running Man, you have It Welcome to Derry, and then I heard that there's another one, but I don't know
there could be I don't know. I didn't even realize that The Running Man was Stephen King until,
because
like,
it
the trailer released, so because I didn't know. So,
because an interesting factoid, The Running Man was not released under the name Stephen King. The Running Man was released under one of his pseudonyms because his publisher did not want Stephen King to publish more than one book a year at the time that this was
sure.
released because they thought it looked bad and people would think it was poorly written because it came out too fast. Look at Brandon Sanderson releasing like 37,000 books a year now. I think it's
Sure.
funny. Also, Stephen King has like the biggest book library of all time. But no, this was
Yeah.
written under one of his pseudonyms. I can't remember what the pseudonym was, but it was one of them. Also, this is very different than what Stephen King was writing at the time that this book was released because this is very much science fiction. He was known as a horror writer at the time.
Yeah. Well,
So
and I
technically, this is also released under the same exact pseudonym that The Long Walk was released under. So The Long
yeah.
Walk as a book was also not released as a Stephen King book. It was released under whatever the pseudonym was that I can't remember.
Well, and I'll let you start with the conversation, but I do want to say this for starters. This is by far the most different Stephen King movie I think I've ever seen. And that is because it is a very different type of Stephen King movie, even though realistically you can find the parallels if you really look for it. That being said, go right ahead. Uh Kick us off, Mr. Towns.
The Long Walk is a movie that I wasn't sure what I was going to get out of it. You have Stephen King backing it, obviously, the writer. I love a lot of Stephen King books. Long Walk is my current movie of the year. You also have Edgar Wright behind it, who's a very well-renowned, well-loved director. You also have Glenn Powell starring in it, which granted, this is Glenn Powell's first big starring movie role in a blockbuster movie. He's been in other things like Top Gun, but he was more of a supporting role. So you put a lot of factors together to make a really amazing movie. And I don't think this was an amazing movie, but I think it was a really good time. I had a lot of fun with this movie. It is the flow of this movie, I feel like, is pretty unique. It's very segmented off and very set piecey, but it's also constantly moving because it's the Running Man. You're running from place to place, and you can really feel that. The movie builds a lot of tension. As someone who has never read the book, I genuinely did not know how this movie was going to end. Now, the ending I do think is where my thoughts get a little complicated because the way that it was told to us was kind of confusing. I do understand it now after thinking about it, but in theaters, I was kind of like, oh, okay, we're kind of wrapping this up a little quickly and we're doing a lot here. And they're kind of just like throwing a bunch of new information at us that we didn't get previously. But the journey, which is what ultimately matters, was a lot of fun. I think Glenn Powell knocks it out of the park in this movie. I heard some chatter online that people are like, this is why you don't give Glenn Powell a lead role. I don't know what movie you watched, but the movie that I watched, Glenn Powell killed it in this leading role. I thought he did a phenomenal job. I think that the rest of the cast is more of a supporting cast. This is very much Glenn Powell's movie. So I think him being able to prop himself off in, yes, there was some inconsistencies with his character, I think, in terms of starting out very family man, then moving very angry, then kind of being all over the place. I don't think that I like hated those inconsistencies as much. I think that looking at his progression of a man who's slowly realizing that he might not make it out of this alive, I think his progression makes sense. And he actually, him becoming more calm because he's kind of accepted his fate that he might not get out of this. I think that's really cool. I think the effects in this movie are really good. I think that the setting of this movie is fantastic. The story that we're telling, the core story of eat the rich, anti-establishment, I don't want to say it's becoming played out because obviously there's been a lot of those movies this year. And there's been a lot of movies like that previously. It's not like this year alone is known for the eat the rich anti-establishment movies. I think that that core storyline was told pretty interestingly. I think they tried to wrap up that. I think that's the part that they wrapped up a little too quickly in the end, though. It maybe could have used an extra 10 minutes to kind of flesh out that ending montage. But in terms of the way that it was sprinkled throughout this movie, it felt consistent. His character felt consistent. I think that overall, you're not going to go in and get a 10 out of 10 movie. But I think that the critics that are saying that this is like, what, a 60 on Rotten Tomatoes right now, I think critics, I have said this and I will say this again. Critics do not know how to have fun with a movie. They go into a movie and they overanalyze the hell out of it and they can't just turn their brain off and have fun. And I'm not saying this is a turn your brain off movie because this movie clearly wants you to think about the deeper things behind it. They want you to think about the anti-establishment, eat the rich thing. But ultimately, when you're moving set piece to set piece and you're watching Glenn's character move throughout the world and the interesting kills, which there wasn't as much of as I wanted there to be. I think the trailer really led us to believe that there'd be a lot of interesting kills, and most of that was just a montage from previous Running Mans. But at the end of the day, I think this is a really enjoyable movie. I think I saw it in IMAX. If you can see it in IMAX, I encourage everyone to see everything in IMAX. But I think this is a very good movie to just go out, have fun, and see in theaters.
Yeah, this is a double entendre movie in a certain sense for me, because this is both a Stephen King story and Edgar Wright at the helm. Edgar Wright, who in my opinion is, when he like directs and writes his films, probably one of the best directors just working today. All of his films have been very, very good and very entertaining and very different. I mean, look, you're talking about the guy who did Scott Pilgrim versus the World, Last Night in Soho, Baby Driver, which is honest to God one of my favorite films of all time. I love Baby Driver. Shaun of the Dead, which is a very fun British comedy. I never saw Hot Fuzz, but I know he didn't. I know people like Hot Fuzz. That being said, this is a guy who's done so much. The Running Man, however, is easily my least favorite of his filmography. It is not a bad movie. I want to say that first and foremost. This is a movie that's a lot of fun. You can have a lot of fun with it. There's a lot to like about it, but there's so much with this film that I'm not even gonna say that you hate it. You don't really hate anything in this film, but you just kind of sit there and go, all right, it's a thing that's kind of happening. Does that kind of make sense? You don't hate it, but it doesn't like really appeal to you either. So it just kind of falls flat. They have some really fun action sequences. I liked what you said about the visuals. The visuals are very, very entertaining, very, very good. Glenn Powell does his job. Very decent, very good job. Glenn Powell to me probably should stick to movies where he isn't exactly the lead. I just think he fits better in a supporting role, helping somebody else who's the lead out, because he does that very, very well. I'm not saying The Running Man is bad and his performance is bad. I just prefer to see him in a different role that's not this. Again, it's not bad. It's just how I kind of see it. The writing of the movie is okay. The cinematography actually for this movie is really, really well done. Edgar Wright always does a great job with that, so you can never really have a hard time with that. I will say something that this film does do, and this is just like Stephen King stories. I give this to Stephen King more than to Edgar Wright. I take it back. I take that completely back. I will give this to Edgar Wright because it's also the same way for him. Both King and Edgar Wright do such a good job of making you care about the character that you're given as your lead focus. They do. Edgar Wright really does direct well and it really conveys again. Baby, Scott Pilgrim, Sean. I think that's Simon Pegg's character in Shaun of the Dead. I'm pretty sure he's Sean. I don't think it's the other guy. Uh, Anna Taylor-Joy in Last Night in Soho, like very, very well done. You really care about the character that you're given. The characters, they're just both they both know how to do it very well. So that's one thing this film does do well is convey and show and come across as okay, this is a very, very well executed character story. This film does feel very familiar though at times. It almost like it pulls from multiple different things, and I get what it's trying to say, but like the best way to say this is this felt like The Long Walk meets The Truman Show. Does that kind of make sense? You get what I mean when I say that? Like, I just felt like there were a lot of similarities to The Truman Show in a lot of ways. I know it's very different because The Truman Show is literally about somebody living in a. There's no like death or anything, but it's literally about him living in like this world that's been made up for him. It's a TV show. He's never been in the real world. It's just that's kind of like how I feel. It's like pulling from both of those, which is a very weird combination. Josh Brolin is fine. He works. He's not the most interesting villain, but he works. Coleman Dominio comes in and he just cashes a paycheck. He does a very good job, but he's just cashing that paycheck pretty easily. He doesn't do much. Lee Pace is also in this movie just to be like an intimidating force, but you barely see his face for the majority of the time. Michael Cera's in this movie for like 5 minutes before he dies. It's like it's just all these things that you're just like, oh, okay. This was not a bad movie. I enjoyed my time. That being said, it is by far my least favorite of the Stephen King films that I've seen over the past at least 10 years. It's probably my least favorite of Edgar Wright's filmography. Nothing wrong with it. It's just not on the same par as other things. So that's kind of my quick thoughts.
I think so. Getting into the back and forth, I think
Yeah.
I would put The Running Man above It Chapter 2 personally. For
Oh no, that's fair.
me,
No,
I think
that's
that,
fair.
which
That's
by the
valid.
way, apparently, very hot take for not liking It Chapter 2 from the both of us, according to TikTok. I don't know why. Apparently, we're fucking idiots for not guzzling the glizzy of It Chapter 2, but I would put The Running Man above It Chapter 2. I think that's the only Stephen King movie that I'd put it above. But
I don't know. I'd have to think. I'd have to watch this movie again because I have seen It Chapter 2 so many times at this point. I do like it. What I don't hate It Chapter 2. I just don't think it's as good as the first It. That's just how it is. I
apparently
like it.
that's a wrong take.
Apparently, I like It Chapter 2 though. I watch both It 1 and It Chapter 2 every Halloween. I mean, the movie had to have done something right to get that out of me. I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Running Man in It Chapter 2 are also very different, so it's kind of hard to compare the two.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm just talking about, like, I think it's more of a preference thing than anything,
Yeah,
even more than a quality thing. Because I do think It Chapter 2 is very well acted. I think the effects in The Running Man look way better than It Chapter 2's effects, but at the same time, It Chapter 2 came out, what, 7 years ago or 5, 7 years ago,
yeah.
something like.
Here's again, barring that I see this again or I don't see this again. I probably will. I'll also see Now You See Me. We'll talk about that later, but also I'm gonna see that again at some point too. I think I give the edge to It Chapter 2 just because I'm so connected to those characters. And
And I
like
don't think you're wrong for that. In
they
fact, again, I'm
love
probably
those
in the
movies.
minority on this opinion,
I
but
don't well, and I might be in the minority. I really don't know. Like, it's such a hard comparison for me. It's also, again, especially because it's such a drastically different movie. Um, I think the thing that set this thing that set me off immediately with this film, and you can agree or disagree, is that I knew it was a Stephen King movie, but I also was like, this is just The Long Walk, just PG-13 and a lot more sci-fi. It's set in a dystopian world. It's set with
This movie is R, by the way. This movie is R.
Oh, this movie is R.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. I don't know why I thought it was
I love,
PG-13.
by the way, I will just note, shout out to the fact that I never get carded at any theater ever unless the manager is standing right there.
Yeah.
So that's probably why you didn't realize this is R, because I also never get carded when
I
going
never
into
get
movies
carded anymore, and I
anymore,
never
and
pay attention
unless
to
the
it.
manager is standing there.
But also, to be fair, going into this movie, I really didn't care. I really didn't pay attention to it. I was in the minority camp thinking this movie was just going to straight up suck, just based off the trailer. I didn't really think the trailer wowed me by any means. And so I didn't really see that it was rated R. But that also like follows into my bit of why was this movie rated R? This movie easily could have been rated PG-13 in my opinion.
I mean, there was a lot of language at points. There
Yeah,
was I think this movie was rated R so that they could give you the shock value moments. Whenever someone does die, they want it to be a little bit more on the shocking side as opposed to not like The Long Walk shocking where you're
I
seeing
was about to
someone's
say
jaw falling off their face, but that's not really what The Running Man is. The Running Man is
no.
supposed to portray that it's very sad that these people are dying, but at the same time they ultimately did it to themselves. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the stories that like I will admit this is the one storyline that I was a little bit more disappointed on was they set up that Glenn Powell's character, I'm going to look up the name, Ben Richards.
Ben.
Yeah, Ben Richards. He was supposed to like find any way to make money for his family. He was
Yeah.
supposed to go and compete on a game show, but not the Running Man. That was like the one rule. And then he did the Running Man so he could raise money for his family. And then, oh no, you find out that the one dude in the black market was going to hire him to be his assistant. And now he's locked into this contract that he can't get out of. I really liked that because I thought a core part of this story was going to be the guilt that he felt for participating in the Running Man. And then over time, he slowly becomes this martyr for the rest of society. And I do think they tell both of those stories. I just think that this is a 2 hour long movie. I still feel like they kind of rushed through some things a little bit. I
Well,
maybe this was
the whole
more
third
fleshed out in
act
the book, but
the whole third act to me just feels very, very rushed. Like, and
I don't
it's
hate
not
the third act as much as I feel like other people are going to, but I can't disagree that there were aspects that were kind of like, okay, we're 2 hours in, let's wrap it up, buddy.
like big, but from Michael Cera's death all the way through to the end, to the plane, to Josh Brolin getting shot, and this that all of it, every last bit of it just felt so rushed at the end for a movie that
Well,
I didn't think it dragged,
the last
but
10 minutes is a montage. The last like
the like,
10 minutes of this movie is a montage.
which I'm also like, why not make your movie longer at that point? I understand what you're trying to go for, but like, why not make it longer at that point? I also like this is what I was actually originally trying to get at because I just like to see the irony in it. The Long Walk and The Running Man, when you look at it objectively, has the exact same setup. The Long Walk is significantly better though. The Long Walk, a guy joins this game for money or for a wish purely so he can, change the game and change somebody else's life.
Yeah,
And The Running
very
Man,
different
a guy
through
joins this
lines,
game to
but
change somebody else's life. It's the same plot. It's just different because it's a different type of story.
hey, hey,
Um,
no, they're completely different because one is the Running Man, the
uh,
other one is the Long Walk.
yeah. It's also kind of ironic that those are the two films that get released and they're by Stephen King. It's just
I don't think these two movies should have been released in the same year. I'm just
no,
gonna say it.
this film should have been released next year.
Yeah,
Um,
like of Stephen King adaptations and how many books he has, why do you have to put the two that are very, very similar with very similar titles out in the same year? I think that that's a little bit of a weird
sure.
decision ultimately. So I
Well,
can
okay.
agree with that.
And I haven't seen the original Running Man in years. Here's what I will say. I think this is probably better than that original Running Man movie. Again,
Okay.
I haven't seen it in years, so I might be on a far off accusation. I think this one's better than the original one.
I
which is
did
a
like the
very
little nod where Arnold Schwarzenegger was the face on all the money. I did like that.
that was fun. Thank you for doing that. I'm looking up to see when the original one was released.
87, I believe.
87. You're probably right.
I'm curious now if I'm right. Because I
Running
looked it
Man.
up recently, so it's not like I like am a genius or anything, but I believe it was 87. That might have been one of the Alien movies. I don't know.
Eight,
Anyways,
eight,
while you
87.
yes, let's go.
87.
Okay, so one thing I want to talk about, just to start us off into a little bit more back and forth, as opposed to like comparing this to other movies and just talking about The Running Man. One
Sure.
thing that I actually really liked about this movie is we never stayed in one place for all that long. Like every time you
Yeah.
thought, oh, we're going to settle down here, like this is going to be where we settle down. Like the first place that we think we're going to settle down, you stay at the hotel. We're going to stay
Yeah.
at the hotel for a few days. Then you move on to the one dude's house that has the brother, and we're going to stay there for a little while. And then you move on
Yeah.
from that and you're on the run again. And then you move to Michael Cera's house and you sit with Michael Cera and, oh, we're going to go to the bunker and we're going to end the bunker. And I'm like, oh, that's a genius way to end, but also kind of boring. So I'm assuming they're probably not going to do that. And then, of
Sure.
course, they don't do that. And then we keep moving and then we end on the airplane. And like, there's a bunch of different set piece moments, and all the in-betweens of those set pieces are also like interesting because, like, for instance, the point of time between him leaving the motel that he blows up and going to Michael Cera's house is you have the whole journey of him realizing that he's becoming a martyr for the poor. Like that's
Yeah.
the gap of time. And then the gap of time between Michael Cera's house and the airplane, you have him trying to convince the rich that he's not the bad guy. He has the
Yeah.
girl that he takes as a hostage and he's
And
trying
he's
to
just
talk to
trying to
her.
right, right.
So like
Look,
each set piece is very good, but then I also think that the through line to get between each set piece is also pretty good.
in the idea that the movie is called The Running Man. Like it's about a guy going from place to place just trying to survive. Honestly, this is a very weird comparison, but hear me out. It's very similar to like John Wick 3. Do you remember John Wick 3 when John's like on the run from all these people who are
Yeah.
trying to kill him? It's very similar here, where it's a constant, fast paced, doesn't really give you a chance to breathe. You are on the edge of the seat. You're going from place to place, objective to objective, just trying to survive. This movie, titled The Running Man, does a very good job at delivering on the running man factor of this guy is just going from place to place, trying to make it through, trying to survive. It's very similar. It's a lot slower, but it's very similar to One Battle After Another with DiCaprio and how he moves from place to place. He's trying, obviously that's a little different because he's going after his daughter, and in The Running Man, Gwen Powell is just trying to survive, but it's very similar in a lot of ways. This film has an incredibly well, like, I think through line's the word you used, through line to really, really clearly show uh, the idea of just going from one place to another. Not one place is safe. It's all just one massive clusterfuck, basically, is what it is. This
Yeah.
whole place.
Because also, like, obviously, we follow Glenn Powell, like, we follow Ben Richards, but at the same time, you also have the other two people that are entered into the Running Man.
Yeah,
And I don't know about you, I actually found the reveal like we already kind of had the guess because I think Michael Cera's character reveals it basically in the trailer. Like, there's a line about like, oh, it's all fixed, which like we could have guessed, but I also would have wished we kept that line out of the trailer.
sure.
But I think the whole thing about finding out how specifically cast it is, and then looking back at the archetypal character, because like I think the reason why I like that reveal is because one of my like original like I guess notes was in the start of the movie. I was like, okay, these two other people that are participating in the Running Man just feel like archetypes. Like, oh, you just have the funny dude, and you just have the dark, edgy person who's convinced they're
Yeah,
gonna win. Like, oh, these just feel like stupid archetypes. Why are we doing this? And then to find out that like they're archetypes for a reason, even though we
yeah.
didn't really get much of them, we only really see like their death and their introduction, and then like one or two cutaways for the girl. Other than that,
Yeah.
I still do like that reveal, and I think a lot of the reveals in this show, this movie, even though I do think this is a very predictable movie for the most part, I think are still pretty interesting. Like, you know that he's going to survive somehow. Like, that was actually
Yeah.
that's an interesting thing. I know we're jumping around a little bit, and obviously I
Fine.
know it's based off the Stephen King novel. I was kind of hoping that they were gonna leave the ending open-ended. I was
Yeah.
kinda hoping
I'm glad
that
you
we
said
were
that.
not going to get confirmation if he lived or not. I kinda was on the f I liked that, and then when we cut to his wife, I was like, "Okay, cool, I'm glad we know that she's alive, I'm not upset that we know that she's alive," but then finding out that he's still alive, I was like, "I wish we would've left that a little bit more open-ended," personally. I
Yeah.
feel like that would've
So
added to the movie for me.
yeah, so here's the way I'm actually viewing the Running Man, and kind of starting off with like what you were saying earlier about I'm going to use my right hand to point because I'm blocking my face with the with my other hand. Uh, the only twist that really worked for me in this movie that I didn't really like, it was predictable, but it worked really well, and I was like actually like, oh, that's really cool. I like that because I don't think they set it up in the trailer. I also wasn't really paying attention, so that also might be why I was shown this now, but it's the idea that, oh, they're not just competing in this game. Like the whole public perception of who they are changes. Like Glenn Powell being a criminal of sorts, or that's the way they're making it out to be, so that people actively want to kill him, so that it makes the game more interesting. That was a twist and a fork thrown into the road where I was like, that's actually, I like that. It really helps build. It fleshes out the organization running the game as a bit more of an antagonistic force, as a bit more menacing of a force, that they're willing to go as far as to do that. But it also adds stakes that I wasn't expecting. I just assumed it was going to be more of like oh, he volunteers to do this. Anybody and everybody is willing to kill him. I didn't think they were going to have to add those stakes, but I'm glad they did because it also just made it make more logical sense as to why people would actively be more scared to help him or actively want to hunt him down, you know?
Well, and I think
Um,
here's the thing. If you would have done it the way that you thought it was going to be, which to be fair, that is a fair assumption. I'm not saying that you're wrong for making that assumption. I think you would have just gotten the Hunger Games. Like the big difference between, because if you think about it, at the core, these are people who are going in. It is a little different because it's a lottery versus, but whatever, it's they're going in to compete for something for the rich, for their own benefit. Like they get to be
yeah,
rich and famous afterwards. Like it's arguably a similar setup to the Hunger Games. I think the interesting wrench that gets thrown into this movie that the Hunger Games doesn't have is the AI deep fakes, the twisting of public perception,
yep,
the way that they're like, "Oh, Glenn Powell said that he loves it, like he loves his kid and he feels bad for murdering these people." And then they turned it into, "I love kicking puppies and eating them for soup," and like whatever he says. Like I think that that twist makes it interesting because that's what feeds the public in
it
the hunt. I
it
do think
yes,
that maybe we should have had a little like again, maybe this is something that it's just because the movie and maybe the book's a little different. I do wish we would have gotten a little bit more of the public aspect of him being hunted. It felt like there was a very quick turn to the public loving him. The only public that consistently hated him until the end, which then switches up on it, is the crowd at the Running Man studio. But like the general populace seemed to be a pretty quick flip on really liking Ben,
sure,
and I wish we had like one or two scenes of other general people like reporting him for the cash prize. I wish that would have been a little bit more prominent just
yeah,
because
yeah.
it would have fed into what you're talking about with the public perception side of things and making him out to be the villain because it's a v I don't know if I need to rewatch the movie and maybe I'm just misremembering, but it felt like a pretty quick twist
Sure,
to everyone
sure.
hates him, now everyone loves him. I wish we'd have gotten like, "Everyone hates him, go kill this dude, let's
Well,
hunt
there
him
is
down."
also a time jump of sorts that goes in there, and they just don't, that's also why I'm like, I do wish the movie was slightly longer so we could see what happens after Ben technically dies. But you
Mhm.
did ask the question, like, or you didn't really ask it, you made a statement, you kind of wish there was more open-ended for an ending. Here's actually what I was really hoping was going to happen with this ending. And yeah, I guess I would have predicted it, but it's kind of what I really wanted just because I felt like that was the direction the film was going. I wanted Ben to die. I wanted him to save the girl, give her the parachute, and Ben would die on the plane. And the organization thinks they win. What I want to see happen, because this also technically happened, is it wasn't Glenn Powell that changed the public perception himself. It was the what's his name who posted the video about Ben.
Oh yeah, the one I don't remember his name either, but he was the one like cool dude character who knew everything.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm trying to look for not important. That guy, he posted the video. I would have liked to have seen the ending of Ben dies, but the organization running the game still loses because now they know who Ben actually was and they understand the public perception of it. It's like I'm going to spoil this ending because I don't think you're ever going to watch the movie, nor are you really going to care. It's like the movie Glass. Did you ever see Glass? Did you ever watch
I did. I have
Unbreakable?
seen
Oh,
Glass.
you have seen Glass. It's like the ending of Glass. Unbreakable split for those who are listening. That's the franchise I'm talking about. The ending of Glass is a very similar, and that's more open-ended with it, but it's okay. David Dunn dies, Mr. Glass dies, the Beast, Kevin, I don't know what his last name is, but Kevin James McAvoy dies. Like all the lead characters die at the end of the movie. They're all killed. But they live on because the world finally finds out that superheroes exist, that there are people with extraordinary abilities because the people that they were close to post a video. That's kind of what I was wanting from this movie. I'm not upset with the ending that we got, but it's also one of those things where it's like, I just feel like it's a missed opportunity. You could have had him die and then had a very impactful ending with he didn't die for nothing. Like he did, basically do what he set out to do in the end, which was provide for his family, and then he ended up shutting down the game. For honestly, you could have had somebody random in the crowd shoot at Brolin and kill him. That would have also been a complete shock.
Yeah, where it's like he died like a dog, like nothing,
He
and it
died like a
was
dog, like nothing. But that also could have been more of because I know this film does a lot, but making a statement. Make a statement by having the crowd be the one to kill Josh Brolin.
yeah.
I
No,
think
I
that
think
also would have
that's
been great too.
yeah. I think that Ben living, it doesn't ruin the movie for me, but it also didn't enhance my enjoyment. That's kind of like the
Yeah.
opening closed on that. I think that God, there was something else I wanted to say, and I'm blanking on what it was. I don't know. I'll maybe remember it. But I think talking about like the set piece element of this, did you have a favorite set piece? Like, I guess I say set piece in the sense of like you have your opening, like this is not a 3-act structure. This is like a 4 or 5-act structure ultimately of moving to different locations.
Um,
Was there one that really stood out for you, or do you think they were all like pretty
they were
equal?
all kind of even. Like, and that's honestly not a bad thing. Like they're all pretty close to even. I guess I don't know what set piece you would call it because technically he was in different spots, but the one where he ends up in the sewer after the big explosion or the underground area at
Oh, the
least.
one where he blows up the motel.
Okay, is it the motel? Is that the action? Is that
Yeah,
what
it's
you would call
that's
it?
he ends up in the sewer after he blows up the motel
I
when
didn't
being
know.
chased down.
I didn't know which one you would actually call that. If you would call it the motel or if you would call it the sewer. I didn't know which one. I guess if I had a stand up, that would be
Is
it.
that because we got to see Glenn Powell's ass?
Yeah, how'd you know? Uh, I guess that would be the standout. It's really hard because I feel like this film is filled with a lot of great set pieces. Like genuinely. Like you could pick out like worse ones, I guess. Like, okay, the one on the plane. It's fine. It was fine. uh it's like most plain third act sequences. The only plain action sequence that I've ever gone, oh my god, that's incredible, was the one in The Dark Knight Rises when Bane drops the practical plane. That's just Christopher Nolan for you. Drops the practical plane down to Earth, and you're like, okay, well, that's elite. Um, I guess the motel would be a standout.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's definitely like
I also
I
like the
think that
explosion.
one also had the most action
It
in
did.
it ultimately. Like
It did.
he's running. I guess the only other one would be the house at the end of the movie with the annoying ass grandma who screamed like a goddamn donkey from Thor. Um, but yeah, no, I think that was. I think the motel was definitely the best set piece.
Sure. Sure. Um, I don't know, man. I'm trying to think of other things to like talk about now because it's like we the villains, they're fine. Like I said, Lee Pace is covered for the almost the entirety of the movie. I didn't even realize it was Lee Pace
I mean,
until
to be
later.
honest, it probably wasn't. It dead ass was probably just him, a stunt double for all of the scenes up until the end of the movie when he gets unmasked, and then he's in it for 5. He probably showed up for like 3 days of shooting ultimately, but
I liked David Zayas in the movie as Richard Manuel. David Zayas is a character in Dexter. When I watched this movie, that's all that I saw was David Zayas from Dexter. I never once did I go, oh man, it's Richard Manuel from The Running Man. Nope. I go, that's Detective Batista from Dexter. That's who he is. That's what he's doing here.
fair enough.
Oh, I like the connections that the Stephen King movies do create. I really liked the fact that they went to Derry, Maine, and that's where
Yeah.
he met Sierra's character. I liked that. I like those little connections that you can create with it.
Yeah, the
It
little Easter eggs,
it
yeah.
also does kind of make me sit here and go, so is it the same universe or is it like alternate dimensions that all these happen in, but like Dairy Maine exists in this alternate dimension? Because are they trying to say that in the not so distant future after It Chapter 2, the world just becomes a dystopian world where the Running Man exists? Or or like did Pennywise actually happen in this universe? Because if Pennywise also happened, that means The Shining also happened, which also means that Doctor Sleep, because that's the oh my god, with it, Welcome to Derry, because they had the connection between I don't know what his actual name, Dick Callahan, I think is the full name of the character, who is the old man in The Shining, who's now in the It
Mhm.
universe. But then they're also saying that because this is Derry, Maine, that the It universe also exists with it. It's just like, what the heck?
I take that more as an Easter egg than actually, like, wholly, connecting
Not like
the
the It Welcome to Derry and The Shining, which those you could
yeah.
connect those and that works. Um
I will say, I don't know who your favorite character in the movie was.
David
Mine
Zayas.
was mine was Bobby T. I liked Bobby T.
Bobby T.
I
No,
think that I think the reason why I really like him is because he is the most consistent and arguably the second biggest villain next to
probably,
Josh Brolin's character is Bobby
probably.
T because he's the one who is making a lot of these decisions and manipulations. And then you can say, oh, well, he stuck it to the man at the end. But no, the only reason he did that wasn't because he was anti Josh Brolin or anything. He just didn't want his own thing taken away from him. Like,
Yeah,
this wasn't
really.
a change of heart and he became a better man. No, this is just like, you're taking my thing away from me. I'm selfish. I want this. Like, that was what
Yeah.
he cared about.
No, I like Coleman Domino in the role. I thought he did a really good job. I guess it's really always hard to not like Michael Cera in something. Like he
I
does
mean,
a
yeah, that's fair.
Michael Cera is really, really funny, and he is just such a likable personality, which is funny considering I'm never going to make you watch it, but he plays himself in a movie called This Is the End, which is literally a movie about Seth Rogen and James Franco. Like not they're not playing characters, they're playing Seth Rogen and James Franco, and it's like about the end of the world. So like there's a pit to hell that opens up, and Michael Cera is just a massive jerk to everybody the entire time that he's in it. And even in that movie, he's such a likable presence because it's so funny to watch him be a jerk when you know he's not actually. But no, it probably was Michael Cera for me. If not, I almost said Booker T. It's not. It's not Booker T. It's Bobby T.
Bobby T. Yeah.
Booker T is a WWE wrestler. That he's not Booker T. Uh, I just like Michael Cera in almost anything. So he might honestly have been my favorite character. Like
That's
truthfully,
fair.
he may not have been the best written, but he's just such a likable presence that it's really hard to not like him.
He's so charismatic and such an like, I don't want to say expertly, but like he's so charismatic in such a genuinely evil way. Like,
Yeah.
you just can't help but love him because he's so charismatic and persuasive, but then you also, like, think about it for 0.2 seconds, and you're like, "Oh, this dude's, like, evil, evil." Like, he's the one who wants to kick puppies and eat your children for
Yeah.
dinner.
Or
Like,
but on
he uses children and the children of the fallen as sympathy to, like, he's the one who ultimately was responsible for their deaths. Like,
yeah.
he is well, I guess technically not him, it's Josh Brolin's character, but, like, both of them are responsible for setting this up, sending people to their deaths. This
Right.
isn't Ben's fault. This is everyone else's fault.
Well, and on the flip side, you have Michael Cera in numerous different projects that he's done where he's not an evil person, but he plays just such a likable, charismatic person. The Phoenician Scheme, for example, which is one that you've seen, he plays a very likable character with even with the twist at the end, but you enjoy his character. Um, I implore you to watch this show, but he plays Jason Bateman's son in Arrested Development, and he's a main character on the show. I'm pretty sure it's actually where he got his start was Arrested Development, but he's so entertaining in that show, and he's such an innocent presence that you can't help but fall in love with it. Yeah, it's Michael Cera all day long.
I have one final question for you because I think we need to wrap this section up and move
Yeah,
into Now
probably,
You See Me. I have one
probably.
last question for you.
Mhm.
Since this is obviously a Marvel movie, given that Ben Richards is in this movie,
Brother.
how do you feel about them rewriting history and instead of Ben Grimm being outside and Susan marrying Richard, how do you feel about them rewriting and now Ben's the one that marries Richard and becomes Ben Richards as opposed to how do you feel about that?
Fuck Kevin Feige for making this happen. No, 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 no.
No, that was a dumb question.
Kevin
I yeah.
Feige couldn't for 1 second just stop to think, should we really put Ben Richards in this? No, no, Kevin Feige, we love you. Big joke. Um,
Yeah, wrapping up my thoughts though, good movie, fun time. I think that again, I know this will one day probably bite me in the ass for every time I say this, but I don't care because I believe it. I don't think that movie critics know how to have fun at the movies. I think that this getting a 60 to 65 on Rotten Tomatoes, I think that is just like I think that the problem, and I think the reason why a lot of people don't like movie critics' perspectives is because movie critics are going to evaluate the movie aspect. They're like, oh, the production aspect, how was it directed? Like, that's not what makes a good movie most of the time. Like, if you can go in and have fun with a movie, walk away learning something, that's all you need out of a movie. And that's exactly what happens here. And if you're okay with that, I think you're going to really enjoy this movie. If you're someone who is pretentious and wants to go in and get a performance that's going to make you sob your eyes out and make your soul leave your body and it's going to suck your dick for you, like you're not going to get that out of this movie.
Look, I don't disagree with you. I think there's it's like we talked about last week. We might have talked about this on the phone. There's always one of two things that happens. One, critics, like you said, they don't know how to have fun, or they're hired to do a job. Most of the time they're hired, otherwise it's just people who just vent for no reason. Um, to analyze the movie production. That's their job. And that's why I always tell people don't look at the critic scores if you're not wanting to look at that. Just don't look at it because it's not important. Look at an audience score or look at how the people react to it or do what I do most of the time. Go to the movies and form your own opinion. That's
Agreed.
usually what
100% agree.
that's what you should do.
Like,
Because
I only looked at the scores after seeing the movie because I
well,
don't
because
want to know that.
objectively, when you look at it, the critics aren't wrong. They have not said anything wrong at all. They're objectively saying how the movie actually is, like from a production side, a directing side, a writing side, CGI. That's their job. That's what they do. So I understand why people get upset about it. But here's the other flip side of it. Critics will give their reviews, and then there are some people out there who are just either diehard fans of the franchise or whatever book it's based off of, and then they get overly pissed that critics hated it when they really loved the property that they enjoyed. And so there is kind of a balance. It's more so the critics most of the time. That's usually more so what it is. But I have seen a lot of people get really pissed off because their beloved thing is not as good as it was. You know, I think it's valid both ways, but that's kind of how I've always viewed it. So if you're listening to the 3 viewers that listen to this on a regular basis, go watch it yourself and don't look at the scores. It's just easier.
Yeah.
Just across the board, it's easier. As far as the Running Man goes, didn't hate it. Enjoyed my time. Is it something I'm going to watch again? Yeah, maybe. If my family wants to watch it, sure, why not? I'll put it on. We can all enjoy it. But it's certainly not anything that I'm like, I absolutely need to see this again. It was just a fun time to watch once. Better than the original, at least with Schwarzenegger. Moving on, putting a pretty pink bow on it, wrapping it up, putting a pin in it. Let's talk Now You See Me, Now You Don't, the third installment of the Now You See Me franchise, and apparently not the last one, because we've all been misinformed. Brandon and I did not look clearly enough at the releases in April. There is apparently a fourth one coming out this whole time. We had no idea. Brandon, as much as I want to start it off, I'm going to give you full right. Did you or did you not enjoy Now You See Me, Now You Don't?
So I love the Now You See Me movies. I think that the Now You See Me franchise is one of the most fun movies you can watch. Like, genuinely, if you want to go in, be misdirected, it is a phenomenal movie for doing that. Now, it's been 10 years since we've had the last Now You See Me movie. This Now You See Me, Now You Don't has been in talks and been in the works and been all over the place for years at this point. And it's been one of my most highly anticipated and highly excited movies that I've been looking forward to. So going into this movie, I don't want to say I had unbelievably high expectations because like I love the second movie a lot more than most people do, but I can understand why people aren't as high on it. Going into Now You See Me 3, though, I had a fucking blast, dude. This was such a fun movie. I genuinely walked out of that theater. I was like, if you want to go in and overanalyze and look at this movie from like a movie perspective as a standalone movie, yeah, it's not going to blow you away. It's not the greatest movie of all time. I don't mean to be any like offensive here, but like the main villain, not a great actress. I don't think this was her like the strongest role for her. I don't know if she's been in anything else, but I don't think she did a phenomenal job. I think the other cast, though, brought a really good performance. I really liked all the other characters in here. I think that at some point, I was afraid that they were getting a little bit, there were too many characters going on. That was one of my main fears going into this movie was, okay, you have the four horsemen, and now you are introducing these other three characters, and obviously you're going to bring some of the other of the four horsemen characters and the Now You See Me characters back. The way that they balanced that and the way that they conveniently had some characters sit out sections of the movie because they got arrested or they had this happen to them or they had that happen to them, I actually really liked because it kept the movie interesting. It gave you another reason to care about the characters. I think the big reveal at this movie is a very strong reveal. I did not guess it whatsoever. I can rarely guess the Now You See Me movies, but this one in the specifics of how they ended the movie with him being the half brother of the main villain, like I did not predict that whatsoever. I think that the tricks in this movie, some of them are some really good tricks. I don't think they had any moments though that were like the card scene from the second movie, which is genuinely the best moment in the Now You See Me franchise is when they're throwing the card between each other. I think that's like universally accepted, but I think overall the explanation of how they get from every trick to every trick, great. I think how they brought everything together in the end was fantastic. Again, this is a phenomenal movie if you're a fan of Now You See Me. But I've heard this comparison before, so this is an original thought. This is the Fast and Furious of magic movies. And similar to the Fast and Furious movies, if you're not a fan of Fast and Furious, you're probably not really going to enjoy this movie all that much,
Sure.
to be totally honest. Because a lot of my enjoyment of this movie comes from the fact that I've seen the Now You See Me movies, both of them, probably about 5 times at this point. Like I love the Now You See Me movies. And so I'm coming in with that and I'm walking away very satisfied as a Now You See Me fan. So if you are a Now You See Me fan, I definitely think this is absolutely worth a watch. But if you are just a casual movie fan from a movie perspective, I do think there are a lot of weak things that I can't help but notice that would have taken away from it if it wasn't for, admittedly, the nostalgia of Now You See Me.
Sure. Um, yeah, I'm kind of in the same camp there. I watched the original Now You See Me years ago, shortly after the second one came out. I didn't watch both of them in theaters, but I obviously wasn't old enough then to really contemplate or watch the movies because I wasn't really going to enjoy them. I thoroughly enjoyed those movies today. I think the first one is phenomenal. The second one, I acknowledge, is not objectively a good movie, but I really have a fun time with it. I really enjoy it. I can watch it and be completely entertained by it. Like you said, it's the Fast and Furious of magic. I don't disagree with that. I think it's very good. Although I do think that in a lot of ways, these films are better than most of those Fast and Furious films. Some of those Fast and Furious films are just absurdly bad. I would say the biggest complaint objectively I have from this movie is some of the dialogue. It's some of the writing. It's not bad, but some of it's just overly cringe. Like the one when I know this was a line that was in the trailer and it even made me worried. And even in the hearing in the movie, I was like, oh no, no, they did it. Was the when Eisenberg or Danny is making fun of Bosco's name. And he's like, "Oh, did you put your name into ChatGPT and just come up with a random name for a magician?" I go, "Why do we need that? It was so dumb. We didn't need that." They cut out a lot of the some of the lines in the trailer that were cheesy though, so I was like, "Oh, thank God." It didn't bury some of the other ones though. Some of the other ones were pretty horrifically bad, uh, but it worked nonetheless. Um, Going into this movie, and I'm saying this first, and we'll have a back and forth about this at some point. The thing that you and I were both worried about is this was about the Four Horsemen, and then there was the new cast that was coming in. And if they were going to continue and make a sequel, it would probably be following those new inclusions in the group. I'm not so certain about that anymore, actually. I think it could be everybody based on how it works and how it's going. That being said, the biggest thing that I was worried about was, can we love these characters as much as the original cast? And my answer is exactly what I thought it was. No, but not for lack of trying. And I see that we eventually can like these characters. I just think that it's really hard when you have had a franchise for 10 years and you've, known Henley Reeves for forever. You've known Jack Wilder for forever, Merritt McKinney, Daniel Atlas. You've had all these characters. And again, you love all of them because they were developed so well over the course of those two movies. It's hard to be the new person in this group trying to make a name for yourself, but they do try. Dominic Sessa, who I loved in The Holdovers, which was one of my favorite movies from 2022, I believe it was 2022 or 2023. It's one of the two. He does a phenomenal job here. Justice Smith usually does a good job, with the exception of Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. Please, he just screams at the TV the entire time. It's horrible. And Ariana Greenblatt does a good job. The villain, let's talk about the villain. She's not a horrible actor. She's just given horrible dialogue. This is the same girl that's the main girl in Gone Girl, which is regarded as a phenomenal. Some people say it's a 10 out of 10 movie. I think it's good. I don't think it's a 10 out of 10 movie. I really enjoy it though. Gone Girl is phenomenal, and she gives a stellar performance in that film. Here, it's not her performance, it's what she's given. It's just not good. I don't feel connected to it at all. She feels very similar to Daniel Radcliffe in the second movie, but that's also Daniel Radcliffe's character is elevated because you have Michael Caine coming back from the first movie and they kind of work together, and that's like a big reveal. So you kind of care about that a bit more. Here, you don't give a crap because there's no connection at all, except for, spoiler alert, Justice Smith at the very end. So I guess what I'm trying to get at that is like the villain's just weak. The film itself at times has some story choices that you're just like, oh, okay, I guess. You don't hate it. Again, I'm saying all these negatives. I want to stress this again. I had such a blast with this movie. This was so much fun. And like you said, I like the tricks. I like the things they came up with. Some of the CGI obviously is questionable, but it's Now You See Me. I don't think that was really going to be. I think there was always going to be a little questionable CGI. The four main cast members, I guess five technically, when you include Lizzie Kaplan. They all have a great chemistry with one another. It's good to see them all back together. Morgan Freeman obviously is Morgan Freeman. It's just a fun time all around. Let's start the back and forth because there's so much I want to say about this movie. let, let let's start with the core four, or should I say the core five. Uh, let's talk about that. Um, what did you like? Was there ever a time that you thought that Lula was not going to be in this movie?
No, no, she was going to be in this movie. Absolutely. She was such a core part in one of my favorite aspects of the second movie. Like every single character from the Now You See Me franchise, of the main good guys, obviously the main villains we don't see, but like the main good guys, they do make an appearance. And so I was expecting her to be in this movie. Did I know how she was going to come into this movie? No, but I think it makes sense calling in the cavalry and getting some help. I think that I don't know. She does kind of represent one of my weaker aspects from for the movie in terms of the Now You See Me story, but maybe you're more positive on this is obviously, like we said, we're very much setting up the next generation. However, it's clear that the next movie is going to be all of them, not like
Yeah,
just the Four Horsemen or just the new guys, like we had talked about offline before watching
yeah,
this. I do think, though, I'm not the biggest fan of how heavily they leaned into how sloppy the Four Horsemen have gotten. Because one of the things that makes the first two movies so amazing is just how genius the Four Horsemen are and how experts they are in their crafts. And I get it. They're trying to play off of it's been 10 years. They're not really like they're rusty. They haven't really done this all that much after a failed trick that ended Mark Ruffalo's character in jail, but not in
yeah.
jail, whatever. I understand that they did have a setup for it. I just wish that they still would have given them more to show off their genius, because I feel like pretty much all the genius reveals for the most part was given to the new cast, and I feel like the old cast kind of just became the butt of a joke a lot of the time in terms of like, oh, well, they're old and they're rusty and they don't know what they're doing. They did have some moments to shine each individually, especially when they made their individual appearances, but I don't know. Do you agree with that? Like,
So here's what I'm gonna say. This kind of factors into two separate things I was going to talk about, and that's the way that you find out the horsemen are separated, the way that Mark Ruffalo. I don't know what the reason Mark Ruffalo wasn't in this movie for. I'm sure there was a reason.
he was shooting another film. According to a friend of mine, who was sitting next to me in the theater, she said that the reason was Mark Ruffalo. I don't know what film it was, but at the time he was shooting another movie and
Okay,
couldn't appear. It wasn't like a pay dispute or like it was just he couldn't schedule
he
his
just wasn't
lines.
able to be in it. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. The way they wrote him out is not a bad way to write him out. I actually thought that was completely logical, and I like that. I think the thing that I didn't like was the fact that they didn't show us that outcome, because it honestly created a disconnect for me a little bit down the road. I was like, "Oh, I wish I would have seen them break up." Like, I wish the whole first sequence prior to the title shot wasn't the new guys. I wish, and you don't even have to show Dylan Rhodes, but or Mark Ruffalo, if you want to get more specific. You don't even have to show him. Show that they're all failing, all four of them, that the trick is going wrong, and show me the breakup of the horsemen. Because at the end of the second movie, you're just supposed to expect that they broke up because of a reason, and then you're just told it. It's the classic case of show don't tell. And they told it, and I get that they like it's not a long movie, and so they're trying to just like get through it, but it kind of just seemed like an afterthought at the end of the day. When in all actuality, that's actually a cool concept. I like the idea that they broke up because they failed. That is a really cool concept, especially because up to that point we hadn't seen the Horsemen fail, not once. Um, and so I like that. And that also would play back into the factor of them being a little rusty, them being out of shape or out of balance with each other. Maybe there's resentment in the group because of the fact that they all failed. Maybe Daniel became an absolute prick to everybody because he felt like he was the main cause of the fail when everybody actually did. It caused the breakup of Lula and Jack. Henley and Atlas broke up, and now Henley's married with a child that isn't Daniel's because he screwed up so bad and he became a prick or whatever. Merritt just went off to do his own thing. I don't know. You could have found a reason, but it could
I
have fed
think
back into the factor of there is a reason why they're sloppy, and it's because of like a resentment or because of the fact that they failed and they haven't worked with each other in so long, which I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem with that, but it all kind of ropes back into the reason why they're broken up in the first place. And I wish they would have at least shown a part of it. Again, you don't have to show Dylan being carted off by the police, or you don't have to show Mark Ruffalo's face at least. You can show him getting taken off, but it could be an extra for whatever, for all I care. I
No,
think that
I think you hit the nail on the head with that. Because the big thing with the Now You See Me franchise is we show you everything and then we tell you later. Like all the tricks work of you're watching the tricks without knowing how they're pulled off until after they were pulled off. Like you don't see them figuring out and planning the trick until after the trick has been pulled off so that we as the audience can enjoy that trick. And I
yeah.
think that the fact that they told us everything that happened with Mark Ruffalo and didn't show us anything that happened, again, look, I get it. This was probably a rushed writing decision. Maybe Mark Ruffalo was supposed to play a bigger role and then he just couldn't be in the movie. And that's why it felt a little sloppier explanation wise. I just like, I think for Now You See Me being such a show tell later story, telling us and never showing us the Mark Ruffalo aspect definitely was a weak point.
Well, and I'll also say this, and we talked about this off camera, or maybe it was somebody else. I thought it was you, but I don't know. Now You See Me was built on Mark Ruffalo's story. The Horsemen were kind of just there. Like they have arcs, they have things that they all wrestle with. They are the Horsemen at the end of the day. Dylan is a horseman, but you know what I mean. Mark Ruffalo's story is so prevalent in the first and second movie. The first movie is overcoming his father's basically murder, working for the Eye, getting revenge against Thaddeus. The second movie is being outed as not really a cop, him being orchestrated as the guy who's always been one step ahead. He's the head of the Horsemen. And coming to terms with being who like this person of magic, being the leader of the Horsemen. That was the arc in the second movie. That's a horrible way of explaining it. I know there was more to it, but he's always been the heart and soul, the center of the Now You See Me franchise when you objectively look at it. When you remove that and it's just Eisenberg, Harrelson, Franco, Fisher, and Kaplan, and it's just those four, and then you add new people back into it, you feel that there's something missing. You feel a piece of the puzzle that just isn't there. And it's not bad, but again, show don't tell. I want to see what happened, not just be told what happened. Because it also makes the ending, spoiler alert, Mark Ruffalo makes a appearance at the end of the movie through hologram saying, "Hey guys, I'm out of jail. You did it. I got a job for all of you," setting up the fourth movie, which is fine. I need to see why he was there in the first place. It just makes the rewatchability for this movie a little bit harder. And it's honestly why, if I was ranking these movies individually, it would be one at the top. It would have been really hard to beat one. I love that movie. 3, 2. That's probably where I'd put it. And the third movie has an opportunity here because of how many cool concepts they have to beat out one. It's just because we're missing the anchor point of this franchise with Mark Ruffalo, it's just hard in my mind to push past it and have a story without him. I don't know. That's just where I'm at.
Okay, I have a question. My next question I want to ask:
Yeah.
do you have a favorite and least favorite trick out of this movie, like the magic tricks?
Ooh. Not a least favorite. I didn't hate any of the tricks. Oh, no, I take that back. I do. I think my favorite trick I mean, I know it's cheesy. I like it when Dave Franco just throws the cards at people because it's really stupid and it's really fun. I like it when he just throws the cards at people. I think as a whole, I like when they all get separated in the Eye residence. I don't know what you want to call it, the headquarters for the Eye. I like when they all get separated and they're all going to different parts of the room. And like you have the one room in which the room spins like an Inception, or you have the one room that's like playing mind tricks on you. It gets smaller as you go this way, and it gets bigger as you go this way. I like that. I would say that whole set piece is probably like just one big trick, but I like that. I thought it was very clever. It was very fun. It added something new. The thing I didn't like how all the five horsemen, the main originals, are trapped in a cage filled with sand at the very end, because it made the finale, in my opinion, very weak. I get what they were trying to do. I get that they were trying to make the newer people solve it, trick what's her Veronica. They were trying to trick Veronica into giving all the information, and then obviously you have the big reveal that Charlie's a Vanderberg. That's fine, but I hate how the horsemen, who again are the original horsemen, who really up until this point hadn't really done much. I mean, Marin himself got captured. Jack got himself captured, and then they proceeded to do nothing, even in through the finale. You just, I wish they all weren't trapped in the cage. I wish they had a part to play beyond that, you know, because it's not bad, but it just makes you sit there and go, oh, I wish that we could have seen more from them, seen the
Yeah,
magic in the finale. That's something I will say. I something I love about the second movie is I love the finale of the second movie. I love how there's this whole laid out plan from start to finish, and every character gets a moment to shine. Merritt hypnotizes his brother. Jack is playing card tricks with Lula. I'm pretty sure that's what's happening there. Daniel is making the rain stop, and it reveals how all that happens, and then it reveals the big twist of how they were never actually on a plane that's flying. The horsemen never actually died. They weren't thrown out of it, but it was just a big illusion. I like that. Here they try to do the same thing, but because the horsemen aren't a part of it, it just in my mind weakens it a little bit. And so it's just like, oh, okay. It's not bad. It's just not something that I was surprised. It's not something I really was hoping to see. I wanted to see more from it.
that's fair. No, I think that's fair. So my favorite trick in this movie is the illusion room where you run one way and you get smaller and run the other way and you get bigger. Just
It's so
because I think
fun.
the fight scene in that movie, like in this movie, was great. I think that
Yeah.
whole sequence
Yeah.
was
It
just
was
such a
fantastic.
fun sequence. It was
Yeah.
it was really funny. It was just well shot because you can tell it was practical, like they actually
Yeah.
were in a room like that, which really
Yeah.
works for Now You See Me. My least favorite trick, and this is probably going to be controversial, I don't like the ending trick. I love the explanation of the ending trick. I don't like the ending trick because it is the exact same trick as they did at the end of the second movie. It is
Yeah.
literally fake lighting, fake storm, like you get into the wrong track. Like it is copy paste the same thing, and they could have done something more interesting.
Well,
The
no, it's
ending of
different
the
because
first
Charlie's a
movie and
Vanderberg.
the ending of the first movie and the ending of the second movie are very different. They have very, very different tricks that end both of those movies. And the fact that the ending of the third movie just feels like a repeat of the ending of the second movie. Granted, again, you have the different tricks with or the different twists with Charlie being a Vanderberg, and at the end of the other movie it's a little bit different, but ultimately the actual trick itself is copy paste. The trick is well done, the trick is great, but the reason I think it's weaker for me is because I predicted it. I
Yeah.
predicted they're driving, and I'm like, okay, she got in the wrong car. Oh, that bump is something happening. Oh, she's not actually in the vault. That's not actually the security guard. Like I love the Now You See Me endings because I can never predict them. This one I was able to predict, but the only reason I was able to predict it
Is because
is
it's the
because
exact same ending.
it was just the same trick. And they could have done something more interesting there. Like,
I mean,
cool
look,
trick, great, but why did you have to copy paste it?
obviously, I like how we're ripping this movie apart, but honestly, it's just because like we can't really talk about the good because the good is like we enjoyed our time. We had a great time with it. Like
Yeah, again, objectively, really fun movie. Like,
yeah,
really fun movie. Also, from a movie perspective, like, again, critics
it's
are going to hate this movie. Like, this is going to be probably lower than, I haven't even looked at the scores yet, but
it's
this
higher.
is
It's higher than both the first and the second.
really.
On Rotten Tomatoes, it's higher than both the first and second. I think on
I'm gonna look
IMDb,
that
it's
up while you talk.
IMDb, it's lower, but Rotten Tomatoes, it's higher. Um, I don't know about audience score, but I know for critic score it is. Um,
I mean, 58 is still not great. It's
Well,
still rotten.
it keeps
So,
fluctuating between 60 and 58. So
on Rotten Tomatoes right now, this is exactly what I expected. This is exactly what I expected. 58 on the critics score with 103 reviews. Can you guess the audience score? And
unguess
I 100% agree with the way I think that the critics are correct. This is the only like one of the rare instances I think the critics are correct and I think the fans are correct. And this is where I think the dichotomy between the two rating systems is completely correct.
75.
80.
Uh,
I think that that is an accurate rating from a fun, enjoyable movie perspective. We don't rate things on the podcast, obviously, because I hate we put like numbers is stupid. But for like, I think an 80 is very accurate for how much fun I had with this movie, and a 58 is also as accurate if I was looking at this from a movie
I
perspective.
I would give it like a 7.5, 75, like for my enjoyment. But granted, my thing is also like my bar is like that first Now You See Me movie. That's like an 85, 90 in my opinion. I have so much fun with that first movie, and I really love that first movie a lot. Uh, I think the second one I would say is like a 65, 70, and then I think the third one's like a 75. I don't think it's really fluctuating. I think that's probably where I would put it. The second one and third one are kind of close to each other. I think the third one is slightly better though. But back to like the main point of what we were saying. The only thing that you weren't able to predict was the reveal of Charlie being a Vanderberg, and that this is the one thing I didn't predict, and I was like, oh, I kind of like that. I really like that was the idea that these three friends the entire time were the people that sought out the horsemen and
Oh
the
yeah,
entire
that's
and that they've
that's
known
the
the entire
trick.
time. I was like,
Actually, that might be my favorite trick.
I was
Is
like, that's actually clever. I like that. It does make me sit here and go, okay, so how are they going to use Charlie in the second movie then? Or it's not the second, but in the fourth movie, how are they going to use him? Because now his trick is kind of done. You're gonna have to focus on somebody else like Bosco or June. Um, Not saying that's a bad thing, but Charlie's kind of a one-trick pony now. You've revealed his thing. What does he do now? He's already said he's not a magic person. He is just a very smart guy. So are
yeah.
you building Charlie up to be the one to replace like Dylan after Mark Ruffalo leaves the franchise? Is like that your plan?
God, I hope
Um,
not. But yeah,
oh, let's talk about this really quickly. I'm sorry. I know I cut you off just then, but this is a moment that just kind of pissed me off because I was like, that's so unnecessary and it's so stupid. And that's the death of the one and only Thaddeus Bradley. I'm just
I
like,
guessed that you were gonna say that, and I
it
100% agree with you.
it's the same thing as Luther from Mission Impossible. I like Thaddeus Bradley as a character. I like Luther more. That's a very unfair
Yeah.
combo. But because those movies came out this year, I'm just giving the example. Both of those deaths were unnecessary. And Thaddeus just got shot, and you're like, why? Just get out of the way. You didn't do anything. They got
It's
caught
to show
anyway.
that he's gotten old and slow and can't keep up anymore. No, I agree. My whole thing, I think the other reason why I hated his death is because this would not be the first time that we faked a death in the Now You See Me franchise. Like
Yeah.
we've faked deaths before. That was actually a big plot line of what was it? The second movie, I think.
The first and
Uh
second, technically.
yeah. So I think that I don't think Now You See Me can realistically pull off an emotional death. I think that's the reason. He didn't need to die. I think you could have easily just written him out as like, this is my last trick. I want to go spend time with my grandkids and just leave it at that. And I would have loved that way more because I did not feel I love Thaddeus as a character. I felt no emotion for his death because the whole time I was like, where's the trick? Where's the trick? What are they gonna do? And maybe you can say, oh, well, the fact that they didn't do a trick is what made it so emotional. But like,
It was
no,
just
I
out of
disagree.
nowhere. No, it's just that
Yeah.
because it just felt so out of nowhere. Like, I'm not saying you could have easily done Thaddeus's death justice. You just needed the build to it more. You just didn't have a build, and it just kind of happens. You're like, oh, well, okay, I guess. I mean, it didn't do anything for me. Now you just wasted a death that could have been very, very emotional.
Yeah.
Because I do ideally down the road, I see them killing off like a Woody Harrelson or Jesse Eisenberg and having like there actual be stakes of like, oh, people are actually dying. I see that being a thing, especially as people get older. I think that's honestly part of the reason why they wanted to have Thaddeus die, is saying like, hey, sometimes you can't escape it. Sometimes there are consequences for your actions.
But wasn't that the whole point of the
Yeah,
Dylan's character in this movie?
that's what I was
Like,
getting at. Is that's the whole point of Dylan's character. So I'm like, so what's the point? Like, what is actually the point? Because also it was one of those moments of they are standing. I don't know where they were. Were they on the boat at that time? I don't know. I think they were all somewhere, and they're all contemplating like, nope, you're not going with me. This is where it ends. This is where we're done. And Daniel makes his like full stand on it. He's like, nope, we're done. I'm not getting anybody else killed. We're getting Marin. We're getting Merritt back. That's it. Done. And Bosco makes a big speech of how you're the horseman. Get it together. And he goes, okay. it's it's like the Hishy dubs when it's like, hey, you want to do this? No. Come on, pretty please. Okay. They just kind of
yeah.
let it happen. I'm like, okay, well, again, I look, and I'm going to wrap up my thoughts here because I've said a lot about this movie. I've said my complaints. I do like this movie. It's one I am going to probably go watch this again this weekend at some point just because I really enjoy the Now You See Me franchise. And I'm sure on rewatch, I might actually like this more. There's a lot that I could probably, now that you know the twist, there's things you can pick up on. I like it. That being said, this is not a slam dunk. In all actuality and objectively, it's not a slam dunk movie. If you're a fan of the franchise, you're going to enjoy this movie. If you're not a fan of the franchise, this isn't going to do anything that's going to revitalize it for you. However, the one thing this movie did do where because again, I'm looping it back around. I didn't want to see another sequel for this. I didn't want to see a fourth movie. And when I found that out, I went, oh crap, there's going to be a fourth movie. I don't want there to be a fourth movie. I actually want there to be a fourth movie now because I feel like they can. I'm not saying they're going to wrap it up with a fourth movie. They might continue it. They might not. But if they can continue to just have as much fun as they're having with this and be creative as they're being with this, I'm on board to watch this again, even if it's objectively not a good movie. You know what I mean?
So
Um,
I have a question for you, and I know you're trying to wrap up your thoughts here, but
no,
I
it's fine.
now that we're talking about the next movie, this is going to sound like a joke. I implore you, think about this seriously. This is
Okay.
not a joke question.
Okay.
How long until Now You See Me goes to space? Is it I give it 2 movies. I seriously, especially thinking about this as the Fast and Furious of magic movies, I think we have I told my friends after we got done in this movie, I turned to my friends and I was like, if anything, this movie proved to me that within 2 movies, we're going to do magic in space.
Uh, it's that or it's what's the other Fast and Furious trope? It's the submarine. It's either that or we're gonna fight on a submarine. It's one of the two. I do agree with you though. At some point, it's gonna happen. How long until aliens come into the fold?
I don't think aliens are gonna come in, but like I do think that with the way that we're building up, like the ridiculousness, like I could see fourth or fifth movie. There's a space shuttle involved in some way, and we're doing magic in space, and poof, the moon disappeared, or poof, the Earth
Well,
disappeared. Like,
here's what I will say, and this is something I do give credit towards the 90s franchise. As ridiculous as it goes, as unrealistic as the tricks are at times, I give it this. In no way, shape, or form does this franchise ever get rid of the realism of the world that they're in. Like they are just normal people, and it never stops to let you know that they're not normal people. Like they are just everyday people, for as ridiculous as it gets. And so I at least give the movie credit to that, where I'm like, at least it's not overly ridiculous that it can't be explained. They explain it, and even if it's over ridiculous, it makes sense. Like the helicopter becoming a flat, and it turns out, oh, there was just a zip line there the whole time. They're getting away through that. That makes complete sense. I can get behind
yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that one of the things, and again, we sounded like we talked a lot of negative about this movie, but like a positive of this is all the tricks are very believable. There's no point
Yeah,
in time where you're like, that can't really be done. Like, according to my magic friend, because I have a friend who is like, they went to magic school for a few years, they
yeah.
were like, oh, some of these tricks aren't possible. I was like, I disagree. Like, I know you know magic better than me, but like, I was never sitting in this movie and going, that trick is impossible. And granted, this is an opinion from a non magic person, but like, I guess that's the only thing that makes me on the side of maybe we will never go to space and we are just going to continue to do the magic loop of taking down like corporations and things like that. Maybe the next movie is we're fighting against the government. Like I don't know. Like maybe that's what Marcus is building up to, and we're gonna disassemble an entire government because we've already scaled up to like arms dealers and drug lords and like big old things. We've taken down big greedy corporations. Maybe the next is like a government. I don't know, but
What's the next thing we're doing? Going to space.
now
I
you
can't.
see me. Now space. Like I don't even know how to make that a
I
title, but
I can't wait for the next movie. Mark Ruffalo comes out. Look, guys, magic can only take us so far. We need something that's a bit more furious and a bit more fast. And out of the corner just walks Vin Diesel's Dominic Toretto, and he just goes, "Welcome to the family, magic people." And
that would be
we'll get Fast and the Furious meet. Now you see
hilarious.
me. However, hold on, this is completely separate. I have for years said I want a movie just because it's so freaking hilarious, and I might AI it whenever it becomes available. I want Transformers meets Fast and the Furious. Just think about how awesome of a concept that is to get Dominic Toretto riding the shoulder of Optimus Prime and then transforming into the truck of Optimus Prime. How sick would that be? That'd be epic, man.
I mean, I wouldn't AI it. I hate generative AI, but I do think that it would be a very funny movie. I think that that would be like a I don't know. I do think that is an interesting concept, and maybe we'll do this as a cold open whenever we have like a slower time period of like a conversation of like ridiculous movie crossovers that we'd love to see one day. Like
That
what
is one where I'm like, that
franchises
actually would
would
be kind of
be
that'd be kind of hype. It'd be so much fun.
it's like not like your DC and Marvel or Star Wars and Hulk. Like no. Like I want the Now You See Me movies to cross
Right.
over with like the Fast and the Furious movies, like that type of crossover.
Um anyway, that's Now You See Me, Now You Don't. That was The Running Man. Uh Thanks for listening to our thoughts on a franchise that we absolutely love and a Stephen King movie that we it was fine.
It was a good movie,
It
but
was
yeah.
fine.
Next
Brandon,
week,
any final thoughts before I get into next week?
I'm very excited for my trip to Philly, and I'm going to talk about it again next week. So you're going to hear me talk about it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Next week, musical fans rejoice. Wicked and Wicked for Good. Wicked being one of the best, regarded as one of the best movies from last year. Debatable. A very good movie from last year. Wicked for Good being Act 2 to the Act 1 that was the original movie of Wicked. I have seen Act 2. Act 2, I don't think is nearly as good as Act 1, but based on how Act 1 went, the second movie should be at least decent. It should be written very well, acted very well. It's just not going to be nearly as good as the first one in my mind. And I know that because I've seen Act 2. There's just no way. I already know. But Wicked and Wicked for Good will be next week. Brandon gets to watch 2 musicals. It's going to be great. You're going to have a fun time. No,
I'm curious. I
no,
can't say I'm excited, but I know I'll
you,
have a good enough time.
you'll at least enjoy it. Yeah, I was about to say you're gonna have a good time at the very least. Um, and so we'll talk about both of those. Look out for that episode. We're gonna be recording that on this Wednesday instead of next Sunday or next Saturday. Sorry, because obviously Brandon's gonna be in Philly. But that being said,
It
let's
will
wrap up.
still release on Sunday, though.
It was still released on Sunday. But that being said, let's wrap up the sucker. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening. You know, if you like what you heard, like what you saw, give us a follow, give us a like, show your support. You can find us on all streaming platforms. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon, you name it, we're there. I promise you. And you can find us on all social media platforms under @Nimrods. And ladies and gentlemen, I almost was about to make a "now you see me" joke by saying this is us saying "now you see me, now you don't," but no, I'm not going to do that because that's really dumb. But with all that said, ladies and gentlemen, as always, stay nerdy.